What is going on, everyone? My name is the California Cougar, and today it's time to talk about the Super Bowl, baby. It is time to talk about the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 54. 49ers versus the Chiefs. You guys should all know what team I'm rooting for at this point. And yeah, so let's talk about the Super Bowl, shall we? I'm going to go over each team and pretty much each position, or most of the positions at least. I'm going to be talking about quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, O-line, defense, and special teams, and which team I think has the advantage in each of those. And then, in the end, just make a prediction. Analyze both teams a little bit, and then just make a prediction as to who I think is going to win. So starting off, we have the quarterback position. So in this position, it's Patrick Mahomes versus Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, Patrick Mahomes, he won MVP last year, and he followed it up with a very, very strong second year. Or I guess this is his third year, second full year, I should say. Although he did get hurt in the middle of this season. Matt Moore had to replace him, but nonetheless, Patrick Mahomes, he had a very good year, and he showed that in the playoffs once again. Throwing 4 touchdowns in the second quarter against Houston, having a really good game against Tennessee. And then now he's against the 49ers defense, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo, he was hurt for all of the 2018 season, but this year he came back, and he came back pretty strong. They didn't really need him in the playoffs as much because the 49ers were just running the ball down everybody's throats. We saw that against the Packers and the Vikings as well. But yeah, Jimmy G, he had almost 4,000 yards, over 20 touchdowns. He had a very strong year, so he can definitely hold his own, and I think he will against the Kansas City defense. But being realistic here, you got to give the advantage to Kansas City. I mean, how could you not give the advantage to Patrick Mahomes? He's arguably the best quarterback in the game right now. He's going to be like the next Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, whatever you want to call him. He's basically that of this generation. He's going to be the next big thing. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you don't give the advantage to Patrick Mahomes here and the Kansas City Chiefs. Up next, we go to the running back position. Now, this one's a little bit different. Kansas City's got Damian Williams and Darrell Williams, 2 very strong backs. Both of them can hold their own. Both of them can run a mile very fast. They're both fast. They're both efficient. The 49ers, however, they've got the 3-headed monster. Now, I don't know if Tevin Coleman is playing. He got hurt pretty badly in the NFC Championship game, so I don't know if he's going to be playing in this game. He had 2 weeks to recover, though, so honestly, I'd be kind of surprised if he doesn't, but I haven't really checked the injury report lately, so I don't really know. But other than that, Raheem Mostert, he's a very strong option. He's explosive as hell. We saw that against the Packers, where he ran for 220 yards, 4 touchdowns. He just ran down their throats, and they couldn't stop him. And Matt Breida, despite his his fumbleitis he tends to have, he's still a very good option. He had a lot of yards. And then Tevin Coleman, if he does play, very good option as well. He got a lot of touchdowns, ran for over 700 yards, I think. I think all 3 of these running backs ran for over 700 yards in the regular season. So, yeah, very strong 3-headed monster here. As for who I give the advantage to, I mean, you got to give it to the 49ers, I think. The 49ers, they're really good with running the ball. They can find openings. Raheem Mostert, he's going to be the top guy, I feel like. And he's going to be the reason I think the 49ers do very well in the Super Bowl. He's going to be one of the main reasons. Especially since Kansas City's defense always has trouble stopping the run, even though they did well against Derrick Henry. But, yeah, I do think the 49ers have a pretty big advantage in the running back position, actually. Moving on to wide receiver. Now, both teams have a few options at receiver. Kansas City's number 1 is Tyreek Hill, but they also have Sammy Watkins, McCole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, a couple other options. 49ers, their main guys are Deebo Samuel and Emmanuel Sanders, both very solid options. But as for who I give the advantage to, I mean, I think, again, I got to go with the Chiefs here because, Tyreek Hill, he's faster than pretty much anybody on the field. They call him the cheetah for a reason. And Sammy Watkins is a really good option as well. He's a good second option. McCole Hardman's a good option as well. The Chiefs have so many weapons. Somebody's going to be open, every time. Even if you put Richard Sherman on Tyreek Hill, and you put Emmanuel Mosley on Sammy Watkins, there's always a couple other guys that could very well be open. So, yeah, I could see the 49ers having a lot of trouble with that. And Deebo Samuel and Emmanuel Sanders, again, very good options. Kendrick Bourne, he's also a good red zone option that the Niners have, but I just think the Chiefs have more options, and that's why I give them the advantage. Up next, we have the tight end. Now, this position is probably the toughest one to pick an advantage for because, let's face it, the Chiefs and 49ers, they have the top 2 tight ends in the game right now. Travis Kelce for the Chiefs, George Kittle for the 49ers. They're literally the top 2 tight ends in the game. And it's hard to pick between them because they're both good at blocking. They both can make big plays. They're both pretty big guys. But as for who I give the advantage to, I know it's going to sound biased, but I'm going to give it to George Kittle and the 49ers. I just think overall George Kittle is just slightly better. I know Travis Kelce has more yards, but that's just because Mahomes throws to him more often, I feel like. George Kittle's more of a short pass type of guy. Travis Kelce's better at long passes. But George Kittle, I mean, look what he did against the Saints. 4th and 2, they throw it to Kittle. It took 3 Saints defenders to take him down. And, the first defender had to grab his face mask. I guarantee you, if he doesn't grab his face mask, George Kittle just stiff arms him the hell out of the way, and I mean, that's pretty much it from there. It would have been a touchdown, I think. So, yeah, for that reason, I feel like George Kittle's just harder to stop. So I'm going to give the advantage to George Kittle. Very slight, but I will give it to the 49ers here. Up next, we have the O-line. Now, the O-line, this is another tough one to predict. Both are full of veterans. Both are good at, keeping pressure off the quarterback, opening up spaces for the running backs to run through. As a whole, though, I do feel like I got to give it to the 49ers. The 49ers they've been more consistent with their O-line, I feel like, than Kansas City. Kansas City's pockets tend to collapse a lot more, and I feel like that's going to happen against the 49ers defense. 49ers defense is going to get to Mahomes quite a bit. There's going to be a lot of pressure put on him. He's going to have to throw the ball away several times. He's probably going to take a few sacks. And not to say that the same thing could happen to Jimmy Garoppolo. It absolutely could, but as a whole, though, I think the 49ers have a better chance of keeping pressure off Jimmy G than the Chiefs do off Mahomes. So, yeah, I will give the advantage to the 49ers. So that's pretty much it for offense. Overall, on offense, even though I gave 3 of the 5 categories to the 49ers, I do feel like the Chiefs have the better offense overall, and that mainly comes down to Patrick Mahomes and the receivers. They're so good at making plays. Even if the 49ers get pressure on him, Mahomes is going to be able to get rid of the ball. He'll be able to scramble a little bit. He's a lot more mobile than Jimmy G is. So he's going to be able to get rid of the ball a lot easier. He'll be able to find some open receivers faster. So for that reason alone, I feel like the Chiefs just have a better advantage on offense. Their offense is overpowered. I've said it from the beginning pretty much. They're just so good. No matter how good the defense is, they'll find ways to get the ball out and get first downs and get the job done. So overall on offense, I do have to give the advantage to the Chiefs. Moving on to defense. Now, defense, I mean, this one's pretty much an easy pick for me. It's the 49ers. The 49ers pretty much have the best defense in the NFL of this season, with everybody on their D-line, Nick Bosa, D Ford, and then, of course, their corners, Mosley, Sherman. They just have so many good options. The Chiefs, while their defense has done well toward the end of the regular season, as a whole, we saw them struggle against Houston. We saw them struggle against Tennessee. They had a lot of trouble. Whereas the 49ers defense held pretty strong, especially against the Vikings. Against the Packers, they were exposed a little bit, but I think that's just because the 49ers were starting to get a little complacent in that game. They were ahead by quite a lot, so they were able to afford to give up a few touchdowns here and there because they had such a big lead. But they held strong in the first half. They didn't allow any points. So, yeah, overall, I do feel like the 49ers just have a much better defense. They're going to be able to make big plays a lot more often, I think. Dre Greenlaw, we saw how well he did against the Seahawks. He made the tackle of his life, basically. That sealed the division and the number 1 seed for the Niners. So, yeah, overall on defense, got to go with the 49ers. And on special teams, this is the final one. So basically, special teams is like punting, kicking, field goals, stuff like that, and returning. Overall, Harrison Butker versus Robbie Gould. Both are very reliable kickers. Robbie Gould hasn't missed a kick since the Baltimore game, I believe. Harrison Butker, he's also very reliable. Harrison Butker has a bit of a longer range than Robbie Gould does, I think. Robbie Gould didn't even make a 50-plus yarder until the NFC Championship game last week when he made a 54-yarder. That's the only 50-plus yarder he's made all season. But either way, both kickers I think are very reliable. Both are going to do well. It could come down to the kickers. This game could come down to the kickers. I really think it could. As for punting and returning, I do think both teams have strong return options. Both teams have good punters. But as a whole, I'm going to give a slight advantage to the Chiefs. I do think they have a little bit of an advantage, especially when it comes to punting and kicking. Return is pretty much the same. I mean, you could make an argument, although I do think McCole Hardman is a better returner than Richie James is. But yeah, like the kicking's about the same. I think Robbie Gould could make a 50-plus yarder if they really needed him to, especially if it's like the last 2 or 3 seconds of the game and he needs to make one to tie or win the game. I think Robbie Gould is still a great option. Harrison Butker might be a little bit better for longer range, but I mean, Robbie Gould's a bit just as reliable. But yeah, still, nonetheless, I do have to give the advantage to the Chiefs here. I just think they're slightly better on special teams. So yeah, that's it for my analysis of both teams. Now, during the regular season, both teams, a lot of them had some really good games. A few times they struggled. Kansas City went 12-4. 49ers went 13-3. Kansas City, I think, lost one game without Mahomes. That was against the Packers. Other than that, they've done very well. We saw how well they did. They beat New England, and they even managed to get the 2 seed away from New England. The 49ers, they lost 3 games. All 3 of them were decided on the final play. I mean, we saw the first game, it was a Seattle Seahawks field goal in overtime. The second game was a Baltimore Ravens field goal at the end of the fourth quarter. And then the third game, Falcons threw a touchdown to Julio Jones, put them ahead by 1. Ultimately, Robbie Gould missed an extra point in that game, so yeah, I forgot to mention that earlier, by the way. Robbie Gould did miss an extra point. He didn't miss a field goal, but he did miss an extra point. But yeah, other than that, pretty reliable still. But yeah, I don't really count the Falcons game as I know the final score was 29-22, but in my eyes it's 23-22 because the 49ers were trying to get fancy, and that was never going to work. They ended up fumbling the ball in their end zone, and Falcons just picked it up to end the game. So yeah, it was an end game play that Falcons already had the game won. So in my eyes, that's a 23-22 game. But yeah, so the 49ers, they've always kept things close. Even when they were 2 touchdowns behind, they managed to come back. And then the same thing can be said about Kansas City. I mean, look how they did against Houston, down 24-0, and they made that lead up in a quarter. So, yeah. As for how I think the game's going to go, I think it'll start off a little something like this. I think Kansas City will get an early lead, but the 49ers will cut back into it later on. I think the game will be tied or maybe a field goal apart at halftime. I think it's going to be a close game throughout. I could see this being a potential shootout. I really could. I could absolutely see this being a potential shootout. But you know what? I'm going with it, baby. This is our year. The 49ers have been slept on throughout pretty much the entire year. I mean, even now, everyone thinks the Chiefs are going to win, for sure. Everyone on Twitter, Facebook, SportsCenter, all that, ESPN, the Chiefs have the advantage. Everyone thinks the Chiefs are going to win, despite them only being a 1.5-point favorite. But, yeah, I think the 49ers are just, overall, I think they can do it. I really think they can do it. I think they can win. And it's going to be on a last-second field goal by Robbie Gould. It'll be a 50-plus yarder, I think, and it'll be with 2 seconds left. And I just think the 49ers are going to pull this game off. Final score, 35-34. Give me the 49ers to win this game. So, yes, the 49ers will win their 6th Super Bowl tomorrow. It's going to be good. I'm excited for this game. This could be the best Super Bowl we've seen since, like, Super Bowl 51. It could be better. It has potential to be the best Super Bowl ever. But, yeah, I'm excited for it. So, let's go Niners, baby. Let's go get that 6th ring. So, yes, it's time. Redeem yourselves from that Ravens Super Bowl a few years ago. So, yeah, it's time. Go 49ers, baby. So, that's it for my Super Bowl analysis video. What do you guys think about it? Make sure to leave it down in the comments below. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? 49ers? Chiefs? What do you think the final score will be? Let me know down below. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button on this video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos to come in the future. Not really sure what I'm going to do next, but I'll think about it over time. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys. So, yeah, again, leave comments down below. Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? And make sure to stay tuned for my next video. And until my next video, once again, my name is the California Cougar. And always remember, stay California cool. Peace.